Hi, my name is Jules, Head of Workshop Services for Evans Cycles. I have 20 years experience in the cycle industry and train our mechanics to recognise national standards. We are the only cycle retailer in the UK to have approved Cytec training status, which helps us maintain high standards. Okay, we're going to go through wheel truing here. We're going to be using a DIY wheel truing stand. First of all, we're going to highlight the buckle in the wheel. This is our measuring prong on this side, which we're going to gauge how true or out of true the wheel actually is. From here you can see there's quite a large gap, I almost fit my finger through it, and the rim fills that gap in. So this shows us how buckled our wheel actually is. To actually start the process of truing the wheel, we need to try and figure out which spokes are loose. So a good practice is just go around, give each of the spokes a bit of a squeeze, do that for both sides, try and highlight the loose spokes. Sort of found these two here are a bit loose, so straight away we put our spoke key onto those and start turning clockwise, so we're tightening those particular spokes. When we're tightening, we want to tighten the spokes in pairs or in sets rather than one spoke, ramping up the tension on one spoke and then tightening the other spoke up to the full tension. So we actually introduce the tension quite gradually into the wheel. We can see here already there's a small improvement. The rim's no longer touching the measuring prong, so we know we're on the right track here. We continue tightening, small amount each time, just keep going backwards and forwards. We will bring the tension into the wheel nice and gently rather than ramping up the tension too quick and possibly damaging the rim and never being able to get a true wheel again. So again, already we can see a immediate effect. What I'm going to do is reset this measuring prong so it sits closer to the rim so we can take a finer adjustment. If the rim goes over to the left hand side, generally it's going to be the right hand spokes we want to tension. If the buckle's over to the right hand side, then it will be the left hand side spokes we need to retension. It's always the opposite side to the buckle, other spokes you need to retension. And almost immediately we can see the wheel is virtually true. Again, just looking at the gap between the measuring prong and the rim, it's nowhere as bad as when we first started. So a little bit more work just to ensure we have the optimum roundness of the wheel. And once we're 100% happy with it, we can then move on to check some of the other adjustments that may have been affected by truing a wheel. If it's one or two spokes only that are loose, then really the truing process is pretty much as we've just done it there, just tightening a couple of spokes, checking the trueness, going backwards and forwards in spoke tension. If it's more than a couple of spokes true, we need to get further in depth with the adjustment of the wheel. Introduce our wheel dishing tool. This is to ensure the rim sits central over the axle. Otherwise it would mean that one wheel would sit off in tracking compared to the rear wheel or the front wheel. So this tool here we place onto the actual axle lock nuts and we position these black blocks so they're in line with the rim. Once that's set, we will transfer that measurement across to the opposite side to ensure our wheel is nice and dished. Now on this wheel, we're out by quite a way. We're at least ½ an inch out with our dishing. So to correct the dish, slightly different to the actual truing of a buckled wheel, what we need to do is work out which direction the rim needs to go, whether over to the left or over to the right. On this one, that measurement there showed me that really the rim needs to come over to the right hand side. So to actually adjust this, we'll actually go around and tighten every spoke on the right hand side an equal amount. If you start from the valve, whenever you're wheel truing, it's always a good guide. You know where you started, you know where to finish again. You know when you've done one complete revolution. It's always best to do smaller turns as possible. So here, really just doing 1/4 of a turn, no more than that with a spoke key. And if need be, I'm going to keep going around the wheel until the dish is corrected. Once we've made one set of adjustments, we can place our dishing tool back on to ensure that the dish has been corrected and the rim now sits central over the axle. A lot of people make the mistake and believe that the rim sits over the centre of the hub, which is untrue. It's over the axle we're taking a measurement from. So again, to correct the rim, this particular rim, this wheel set, the rim was over to the left hand side. To adjust and pull the rim back to the right hand side so it's central over the axle, we tighten all the right hand spokes. If the rim was over to the right hand side and we need to bring it back to the left hand side, we tighten all the left hand spokes. It's always the opposite side when we're tensioning wheels. Another tool we use at Evans whenever we're building a wheel or truing a wheel within our workshops for customers is a spoke tension gauge. This is really important to ensure that we actually build the wheel to the correct strength. So we will always use one of these tools to ensure that our spoke tension is at the required specification. Failure to have a wheel that's actually tensioned correctly can lead to a wheel going out of true very early on in its life, and also further damage to the wheel down the line with breaking spokes, a wheel that doesn't ride very nice, feels unstable. So we always use a spoke tension gauge. What we're trying to balance with a wheel is trying to get the correct spoke tension, get the rim centralised or dished correctly in relation to the axle, correcting any up and down, which we can check with this particular truing stand by lowering it. So here we can check up and down from this gauge, or we can check the side to side as well. Wheel truing is actually a combination of balancing all three of those different truing states to ensure that the wheel is nice and round, both up and down, side to side, and is dished perfectly correctly with the correct spoke tension. Not so simple.